Warning: the following video contains spoilers relating to the content in question. If you do not wish to be spoiled, click out of this video now.
So Bethesda and ZeniMax Studios decided to remaster and re-release their most popular and probably biggest game to date, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, to the new consoles like the Xbox One and the PS4. Back in 2011, I bought Skyrim for the Xbox 360, and it's been a couple years, well, it's been a long time since I last played it. So when I heard that it was coming for the PS4, I could not resist the opportunity to play it. I still remember the day I first bought Skyrim. It was back in 2011. I think it was only a month or so after it was released. I was in Walmart to go pick up Saints Row 3. That was the game that I was really hyped for. That's the game that I really wanted. But one of my friends suggested to me that I should pick up Skyrim. Fucking phenomenal was his words. And he described to me some of the features of the game, like the whole Civil War thing, and I was like, you know what, this does sound really interesting. I think I'll pick it up. So I picked up Skyrim with Saints Row 3, but I played Saints Row 3 first because that's the game that I want to play. It was a disappointment, to say the least. So once I was done with Saints Row 3, and trust me, it didn't take long, I popped in Skyrim, fired it up, and I was blown away. It was every bit as phenomenal as my friend said it was, and then some. I mean, this game has a colossal world to explore. Hundreds of locations, dungeons to clear out, hundreds of characters to interact with, dozens of quests to do. The amount of content in this game was, and still is, overwhelming. And what I really love about Skyrim's leveling system compared to the Fallout games that I played previously is that you have a set of skills like destruction or sneak or, two-handed weapons or, shit like that. Like a set of skills that you level up by actually using and practicing. So say you want to be like, a master at destruction. Well, you actually have to use destruction spells and practice at the skill in order to level it up. And as you level up your skills, you also gain levels like from level 1 to 2, and as you gain levels, you can further improve your abilities by putting perks into those perk trees for each skill. In this game, you don't just kill enemies or do quests to gain experience points and you put skill points into certain skills. No, that shit's completely non-existent in this game. Quests don't really give you anything aside from, some sweet-ass loot and some gold or some other good reward, but there's still incentive to do them because, it still gives you an opportunity to improve and practice your skills, and they're still just plain fun anyway. I have poured hours upon hours into this game, obsessively trying to improve my skills, like mining ore, enchanting weapons, brewing potions, exploring every crook and nanny in the game, and even to this day, I don't think I've experienced everything the game has to offer yet. As far as quests in this game go, the vast majority of them are just, miscellaneous objectives where it's, just go fetch that, or, go to this cave, kill that person, or kill that group of bandits, and, there's not much to them. They're just meant to be, for a quick reward and another opportunity to practice your skills. But, that's exactly what they're supposed to be. Just miscellaneous side quests, and they're listed as such. But the actual side quests, the ones with some actual meat to them, they're actually pretty varied, and some of them even have various ways to complete them. Many of the quests in this game are pretty straightforward and linear, but there is the odd exception. For example, there's a quest where you have to save a Thalmor prisoner, and you could either do it by attacking the fort with the prisoner's brother, attacking it yourself, or you could just simply use diplomacy to get the prisoner out. The best quests in the game by far, though, are the Daedra quests. Every single one of them is fun and entertaining for different reasons, and they're all delightfully twisted and evil or downright hilarious. And the Daedra princes themselves are just such great characters because they're just as much so. And aside from the standalone side quests, there's also, of course, 6 major quest lines in the game, one for each of the 4 guilds. There's the Civil War, and then of course there's the main quest line. For the guild quest lines, I liked all of them. Like, hell, each one of them could have made a great main quest line for the game in and of themselves. But if I had to rank them, I'd say the Companions and the College of Winterhold were probably my least favorite, with the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood being my favorites. Because those ones, like the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, they just had more interesting characters and more interesting storylines than the Companions and the College of Winterhold did. If I had one complaint about the guilds, it's that they're far too accessible. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, like, you could join each of the 4 guilds no matter what your build is. Like, for example, you could join the College of Winterhold, basically the Mage Guild, as a pure warrior who doesn't know shit about magic. And each of the guild storylines ends up with you being the leader of that guild. So you could go through the College of Winterhold questline without using a single spell. You could go through the Thieves Guild questline without using any stealth skills that a thief would use, and you would still end up being the leader of the guilds at the end of it. 'Cause, yeah, that makes sense. The Civil War was actually one of the aspects of the game that I was really looking forward to, and it was actually one of the things that sold me on buying the game. And it's one of the few instances where you actually have some semblance of choice in the game. Basically, you have to choose between the Imperial Legion and the Rebel Stormcloaks. And Bethesda actually does a really good job of presenting a moral gray area, you know, just like they did in Fallout 4 and what Obsidian did with Fallout New Vegas. Since both sides have their pros and cons, much like those games. Although, I usually find myself joining the Stormcloaks, but that's mostly because they just have the more interesting characters. Though on my first playthrough of the game, all I was hoping from the Civil War storyline was a quest where you take a city and a quest where you take a fort. And there was no shortage of that shit. Like, there was 4 quests involving taking forts and 2 quests involving cities. So, it gave me more than I was hoping for. And it even gave me a couple cool quests, like freeing prisoners from inside a fort and taking it from the inside. So, all in all, I'd say I was quite satisfied with the Civil War questline. But I heard about some cut content from the game that involved the Civil War, where basically, you could recruit giants, you could burn down farms, you could attack mines, you could assassinate leaders of the opposing team, you could choose which holds to take, and you could actually lose the war. Holy shit. I mean, I like the Civil War storyline as it is, but that shit would have made it 100 times better. Seriously, if there's anyone out there who makes mods for the PS4, if you could make a mod, restoring that content, I don't know what I'll do, but, I'm begging you, just please do it. And the main quest of the game was also really good. I mean, well, the villain could have been better, and his boss battle sure could have been better. But, aside from that, it was still pretty good. Like, it still had great characters, it still had interesting story, and it also had plenty of lore to offer up. And once again, back to my first playthrough, when I first learned that the dragons could talk, all I could think was, oh god, please let there be a friendly dragon you could have an actual conversation with. And lo and behold, he showed up. A talking dragon you could actually talk, like have a conversation with, showed up. And he was the best character in the whole fucking game. Voiced by Mario, no less. Man, fuck the Blades for making me kill him. Or telling me to kill him, that is. Seriously, there should have been a fucking option to mop the floor with their asses or hand them into the Thalmor or whatever. Them being essential and unkillable is fucking bullshit. So I think that pretty much covers vanilla Skyrim, but what about the 3 pieces of DLC that were released after the release of the game? Dawnguard, Hearthfire, and Dragonborn. Might as well comment on those while I'm at it. So the very first piece of DLC for Skyrim was Dawnguard, which basically adds a couple new guilds and an entirely new questline. One of the guilds being the Dawnguard, a group of vampire hunters, hence the name of the DLC, and the vampire clan Volkihar. So, as you can imagine, this DLC is heavily vampire-orientated, and even somewhat werewolf-orientated too. So, it adds a lot of new features for vampires and werewolves, like it adds a new vampire lord form, and it even has like a new skill and perk tree for the vampire and werewolf forms. Me personally, I didn't really give a fuck about lycanthropy or vampirism from the main game. Lycanthropy, I only gave a fuck about only because of the disease resistance. Didn't really like the form, the werewolf form gameplay. And as far as I'm concerned, vampirism fucking sucks. So yeah, that part of this DLC didn't really appeal to me that much. The main draw of the DLC for me was the new guilds, the new questline, and a certain new companion it introduces. I really like the storyline for Dawnguard, even better than the guild questlines in the main game, or at the very least, on par with the best ones. And a big part of that is because of the new companion they introduce, Sarona. Now, if you ask me, and I think if you ask most people who played through the DLC, Sarona is an amazing character. I love Laura Bailey's voice acting, I love her personality, she's well fleshed out, probably the most well fleshed out NPC in the game, and it's mainly because the story of Dawnguard is mainly her story, as it deals with her relationship with her parents, and also her relationship with you, the player character. And even though you play a silent protagonist, the way the dialogue is written and the way Sarona reacts to your, dialogue choices, it somehow manages to build some great chemistry. There's even a point in, the storyline where you could make up your character's backstory about their parents, and Sarona just haphazardly tries to relate to you. And it's just little moments like that, little human moments like that that make her so great. Although I still can't decide whether Sarona is just that good a character, or whether it's just because she's the only fucking companion in the game that actually has some character to her. The DLC also added a lot of lore for the Snow Elves and the Falmer, and you even get to meet an uncorrupted Snow Elf. Like, the Snow Elves and the Falmer have so much potential, and I seriously hope that future games expands on them a lot. And the second piece of DLC for Skyrim was Hearthfire, which I have strong suspicions was the prototype for Fallout 4's settlement system. And it basically just adds the ability for you to, build your own house and customize it any way you want, and which, I like. I like it. I like building houses and customizing them. I love the settlement system from Fallout 4. But, for Skyrim, well, it's basically, you just build a house and you customize it. So, not much else to say about it, really. And then we come to the third and final piece of DLC for Skyrim, Dragonborn. And in my humble opinion, it's even better than the main game. Right from that very opening shot of you arriving in the town of Raven Rock, Solstheim was infinitely more interesting than anything in mainland Skyrim. Now, don't get me wrong, the scenery in mainland Skyrim is really good, but I'm from Canada. So lush forests and marshes and snowy tundras, that shit ain't new to me. Solstheim was just a far more alien and therefore more visually appealing environment to me. The ash-covered, burnt-out forests, the silhouette of Red Mountain erupting in the distance, the sky just covered in volcanic smoke, all conspired to create a gloomy atmosphere that I just ate up. When you talk to the people of Raven Rock and they say they loathe the place, you can hardly blame them. Raven Rock is a mining town that's mine dried up, and they live on an island covered in ash and filled with things that want to kill them. They're barely scraping by, they're hanging on by a thread, but through a series of quests that you actually have to stumble upon, you can actually turn things around for Raven Rock entirely. And during all this, I began to realize something. I cared more about Raven Rock and the people living in it than I ever did about anyone or any of the cities in vanilla Skyrim. When you first arrive at Raven Rock, everyone you talk to is unhappy and just ready to give up on life, and the mine's dried up, and Solstheim is just generally a miserable, inhospitable place. But through quests, you can reopen the mine, you can deal with a major threat, and then suddenly everyone's happier, they're working again, and they thank you every time you talk to them. In other words, your actions actually have fucking impact, and they're fucking acknowledged by the NPCs. I don't remember that happening in vanilla Skyrim at all. You could kill Alduin and no one would bat an eye. But in Dragonborn, it's the complete opposite. When you do something, your actions actually get acknowledgement. The NPCs react accordingly. Raven Rock actually feels like a real town because of that. Even the northern half of Solstheim, which is closer to Skyrim in terms of environment, even that's strangely unique. Maybe it's because of the Reeklings, the Glaciers, and the Skull, who are basically the Native American version of the Nords. And besides that, it just has everything that a good DLC should have. New weapons, new quests, including a quest where you can become chief of your own tribe of Reeklings, because, good God, who doesn't want to be chief of their own tribe of Reeklings? And if you don't, what the fuck is wrong with you? And there's also a really entertaining mini quest line for Telvanni Wizard Neloth, who is probably the most entertaining character in the game. Like, the quest where he thinks that everyone in Raven Rock would be thrilled to work for him, yet only the one desperate schmuck will, is just fucking hilarious. And I also think that the main quest was also pretty good. It had some cool dungeons, it added some Great Dwemer lore, Apocrypha was a visual treat, and this DLC probably turned Hermaeus Mora into one of my favorite Daedric princes. And Mirak, the main antagonist, was also a pretty decent villain who had a great boss fight at the end. Though my only problem with the main questline is, it's just too short. Like, I just wish that it had more time to flesh out Mirak as a villain, and also some of the other characters we get to meet. I mean, it was still good, but in terms of questlines, I think I'd rate Dragonborn's main questline second only to Dawnguard's. But Dragonborn is by far the bigger DLC. As a matter of fact, it's much closer to expansion than a DLC. And like I said, I think it's a superior product to the vanilla game. It was so good, as a matter of fact, that it made me want to play The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. And Morrowind turned out to be even better than Skyrim. If you agree or disagree with this video, be sure to discuss in the comments section, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also be sure to check out my blog at The Critical Canucks at blogspot.ca, and also be sure to follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook, all that jazz. Links to all those are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be seeing you next time. Peace out, everybody.